we need it. Let's see if this is on. Woohoo! So we are getting ready to start here. I know we're a little late. We'll kind of respect your time here. I'm going to go ahead and just read, or you want to read the summary of,
Sure.
so that you guys know where you are and that you're in the right place. And
Hi, good morning. How's everybody doing? How was breakfast? I loved it,
yeah.
but there were so many things to try.
Yeah.
Well, it was my first time trying vegan soy pancakes,
Um,
and I took them with some trepidation, and they were freaking awesome.
I'm going to try to keep us all on the mic because when they're recording this, they cannot hear us if we are not speaking into this.
Well, good morning. We'll introduce ourselves individually, but you're here because you're interested in knowing about Green for the Mainstream. So we'll get right to it. Mainstream America, as you know, is really at a crossroads with chronic disease on the rise and an urgency to protect the planet like never before. Yet the mainstream consumer, as you know, because you're here, is not necessarily ready to change those old habits, even if their health and their home depends on it. So how do we really make green truly work for the mainstream and get beyond the trendy ideas and just get over all those misconceptions and get to what really works for the typical American household? How can you be both mainstream and green? Can you? So we'll each individually introduce ourselves and explain a little bit about why we're here. And I promise we'll keep to time.
Do you want to go ahead and give it to Dennis and he can tell us what he's doing here?
Well, if I am live streaming right now on Blab, and we'll be doing a session on that later today, but to get to reach people that were not able to come, we posted it from the Shiftcon area so they could actually watch the session, ask questions. And Blab is a real new interactive media where you can have 4 people in the live stream at one time and they can come and go. So we'll be doing more, like I said, I have a session later on that, but that's what we're doing here. It's very easy to do, very simple media. It's like Periscope on steroids. So we love it. But I'm kind of really new to this. I'm Chef Dennis at AskChefDennis.com. And I was a chef that guzzled the green Kool-Aid last year when I started hearing the stories of what was in our food. And, you know, you think I would know? Duh, I did not. So.
I'm Jenny Radford, and my blog is living-consciously.com. I kind of blog there. And then I do Instagram as well. I'm a yoga instructor and a fitness instructor, and just kind of been around in this space for a while. And I work a lot with just every day with my other mom friends, my community, and I'm very passionate about trying to bring green down to a more accessible level, because I also am friends with a lot of you guys who are so awesome with the DIY and the homesteading and the urban farming. And my passion is just to make that this movement more accessible to people who that seems real crazy to. So
my name is Ann Brock. I blog right now at Flour Sack Mama and Clean Couponing, and also do social media consulting for businesses and nonprofits. And I love doing cause work. I love reaching out to other moms, and we'll get into that more later. But I actually grew up on a farm in Missouri in a really small town, and I'm really privileged to be able to live in a beautiful part of the country now in Appalachia in East Tennessee. And these connections for me are so important: family and faith and just where we've come from. I think that's just a beautiful part of who we all are, that we can be ourselves, and that we'll talk more about how we can get messages across in a way that really connects with people where they are.
Hey everybody, I'm Janae Osborne. I blog at justjanae.com. I'm also the military families correspondent for Gannett News, as you may have seen me around there talking about military stuff. My passion stems from a love of family and community and making accessible choices available for everyone. So that's what we'll talk about today.
So now we'll go back to Dennis, and he's going to tell us more about what's going on with the Blab, right?
I think we already.
You're covered that?
We're good,
with that?
Yeah, okay.
All right. So now we're going to each explain a little bit about how these things fit together for us and our social media presence, about where we begin with this. So you want to start with Dennis again?
So yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about.
Oh, well, let's see. Hold on. I'm going to flip it over there. I think that might be where we are I think the social media presence is a little bit down there with how to connect. Sorry. I think we might be one slide behind. So we're going to do this one. Because we're going to talk about how we communicate this next. So we're going to kind of talk about where you begin first. So, and this will go into how we individually introduce this to other people. But I think this is where kind of, anyway, the most common question when somebody comes to you, and you probably had this experience, is they ask you, what do I do first, right? Because introducing too many changes at once can cause a person to give up completely. I actually posted that on my Facebook page yesterday for my mom friends, and I said, tell me kind of some of the things that are what keeps you from being more green. And it was just like overwhelmed, too many things, like can't do all these at once, And so that's what we're kind of focusing on, is how to answer the question of where do I start in a non-intimidating way. So we're kind of going to each talk a little bit about how we've done that. And y'all feel free to jump in too if you got ideas. I think we have a microphone there, so you can totally hop on. I'll pass it to Shanae. She looks she's very excited about this. Yeah.
I work with families in the line of ministry and counseling who would think that this group is ridiculous because they can't afford, they think, to go green. I'm from the South, the land of sweet tea, cornbread, everything fried. And if your house doesn't smell like bleach, pine salt, Tilex, or a combination of the three, it's not clean, honey.
That's true.
If you were to tell someone who's grown up with this for generations, well, you could use essential oils or just this product in water. Oh no, honey, that's not clean. So what I've done is to just show what I do in my everyday life. I don't preach at them because you're not going to reach them. You're going to give me kale and not collard greens? What? Grilled and not fried? No, that doesn't work. So you can show people that one little step can make a difference. You don't have to spend $50 on produce if you only have $25. I think being authentic and more than a hashtag works. Being able to talk to people where they are and loving them where they are and walk them through just simple things. This is what I have in my local grocery store. This one may seem more expensive initially, but if you prepare it this way, you have enough meals for this whole week, as opposed to just going and buying a box of something that's $2 that may kill you in 2 years. Yeah.
Okay, so where we come from as well. Yes, and how to start. Well, finding your objective, I think I agree with everything you said, so I don't want to repeat all that, but finding what's important in your family, depending on where you come from culturally and what your grandmother taught you and what your mother taught you with respect to that, and then adding that new information is important. And that is really a premise of why I started the Clean Couponing blog, secondary to the Flower Sack Mama blog, where I tend to write a little long and want to tell more stories, because everybody doesn't want a story, but sometimes they just want to go online and get a coupon. Mm-hmm. And so that was an interesting kind of moment for me to realize that a lot of the moms that were in my school group and play group and other peer group for me as parents, they really weren't interested, as you said, in the in-depth reasons behind everything, but they wanted a coupon for something. And so I was really looking for sort of an antithesis to this sort of extreme couponing mania that's gotten out of control, where people don't know what in the world they just bought. So I think that's great. I think, again, with respect to, and just building on what you said, is finding what works for you. In your family, if you have somebody with a specific diagnosed disease, like if they have diabetes, then you're going to make choices based on that. I mean, that's just what you have to do, right? If your child, if you know they already have a food sensitivity or allergy, then you're going to have to make decisions based on that. So that is your priority. And that's, maybe that's where you start. And just respecting that people do have to start wherever that is that works for them. I think that, again, is just that great connecting point for us.
Yeah, definitely. And Chef will talk more about food, so I'm not going to belabor that one. But I think one of the, as Ann said, just where are you coming from is one thing that I like to help people with, is just kind of what your goal, like you said, what your goal is. And a lot of people maybe their goal may not even be food. You know, some people it is, but some people, the chronic illness could be coming from somewhere else unrelated to food. So we have to be okay with that too. With them maybe not being at the spot where they're going to change food yet, but maybe they're going to change what they're putting on their body, because, you know, the lotions that we put on our body, you know, sometimes that's a more accessible point for some people. You know, everybody's different. So I think it's really important to just respect where everybody's coming from. And if they're not comfortable changing every single aspect, just find one that feels real good and do that for a little while, and then maybe move on a little bit more. I liked what Robin said about using half a packet of the neon cheese and the macaroni and cheese, and I was like, heck yeah, because, you know, it's hard to tell somebody, oh, well, you just can't eat that at all anymore, that's terrible, like you can't, you know, it's to be like, oh, half a packet, you know, we're going to start, and maybe we're going to use Mama Angel Baby instead of Johnson & Johnson. You know, that's a great entry point for somebody that doesn't ask them to give up meat or dairy or, you know, everything that they want to, that they love right now. So anyway, Chef was going to talk more about food, I bet.
Yeah, food is a really main component in changing your lifestyle because it affects you so much. And just like Jenny said about things that you put on your body, you don't realize your skin is your biggest organ. I went gluten-free after this conference last year. I'm not gluten-free anymore, but I tried it to see if it would help cure some things, and it didn't do what I was looking for it to do, but it gave me a whole new outlook on the gluten-free lifestyle and what's available, and it has gone leaps and bounds. I have friends that do it because they're celiac and they have no choice. I had a choice, so it was a conscious decision, and I have cut back my gluten incredibly. And what I used to eat, I do occasionally have a nice piece of bread, but other than that, I've eliminated most of it. But the food is a very hard thing to look at, and you don't know where to start. And I always tell people, one of the things I learned right away was the dirty dozen and the clean 15. If you do nothing else, if you can make those small changes in your lifestyle, that's a place to start. Okay, it's not asking people out because, you know, let's look at it. Organic produce, although the prices have come down drastically, and there are many more outlets to purchase them at, they're still more expensive. And if you're on a budget, you have to pick and choose. You know, I know it's pay now or pay later, but if you have so many dollars in your pocket and you can't afford that philosophy, you have to decide what's best for your family and find things that work. So start with the dirty dozen, the clean 15. The biggest impact on your life would probably be in the meats that you eat, pastured meats, okay? And let me tell you something, there is a lot of BS out there on what they're trying to brainwash us into eating and thinking that it's good. And me as a chef has fallen for some of it too. I'm buying meats that I saw that looked like they were organic. They talked like a duck, they walked like a duck, but they weren't a duck. Okay, and then I noticed that all of a sudden Perdue's name started appearing on this label that I had been buying thinking it was good. And so that made my brain start to think, you know, and I looked more closely at it and realized I was just getting sold hype. You know, no antibiotics, no hormones. Well, isn't it illegal to put them in stuff? You know, what are you telling me? Something that you can't do anyway, and you're making it like a positive thing. The other line was eggs. Most of those little labels they put on eggs are decorations. They don't mean a damn thing. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's the association that comes up with these labels. Well, cage-free. Well, that means that they can go out of their little pen if they want to. If they so desire, they can leave, you know, or, you know, it has to be pastured. It has to, you have to look, there's certain terms I've learned, you know, that they're just pulling the wool over our eyes with food. So you have to start thinking a little bit, and where you can make these changes in your lives with food, start to make them gradually. Read labels. I have never read so many labels in my life. In my I'm 62 this year. In my 61 years on the planet, I did not read as many labels as I have in this last year altogether. So, you know, and it's important. And even my wife now, who knows nothing about shopping, she was always the breadwinner in the family, and I baked the bread. But knows no, I mean, I sent her to the store, and God help me. But she's looking now at labels, and she'll go, is that GMO? You shouldn't eat that. I'm like, oh, I want it. She goes, you can't eat that. I'm like, So I put it back, you know. So, I mean, I still every now and then I make a conscious decision that if it's something I want to eat, I'll eat a very, very small amount of it. But if I can't find it or if it's not readily available. So you also have to have that perspective in life. The earth isn't going to stop turning if you cheat just a little bit every now and then. Okay, it's not etched in stone, but do the best you can for your family and be healthy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good segue into our next slide, which is just talking from personal experience. And these are specifically ways to connect, right? So, you know, we were talking about what the message would be, where do I begin, but then how do you connect with a person, with an audience to say those things, right? So one of those things is, you know, being authentic, talking from personal experience, whatever your platform is, whether you're on Twitter, you know, your Instagram, or maybe you're just person to person, like Janae does a lot of that. I do a lot of that. But just, like Dennis was sharing, he's sharing his experience. He's on social media right now. He's here in front of you guys. That's one way. I can let y'all read like the other bullet points if you want to, and kind of, we can all sort of share how we've connected in the past. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to let you guys start it out and then we'll come back through. Yeah.
Well, fine. I'll just jump right in. As Jenny was saying, we want to keep things positive. I think my favorite bullet point, honestly, is keep the goal positive. We don't want to demonize anyone. I may have mentioned it earlier. I have no idea if I did it or not because I'm high on coffee. I am a military wife. I travel from town to town, often country to country, and I see so many different types of families. I'm also a minister and a counselor, so I hear all kinds of stories. What I find often is when someone has an answer and they found what works for them, they typically demonize the other person if they're not doing exactly the same way and they don't have the same solution. What I believe we all agree on is that we may not take the exact same steps, but when we are trying to help other people, it gets more effective. It gets more people involved if we're able to love them wherever they are. You hear me say that a lot. I love you. I love you. I mean it. If you can just stay positive about the message that you're bringing, even if you know that that person's eating something that's awful for them, rather than taking it and slapping it out of their hand or making them feel awful for it, show them the positive solution, the positive change that you've made, and show them how they can do it. Make it easier for them, and they're more receptive to whatever you're working on.
Well, as far as stories and relating to people, I mean, I actually come from a traditional journalism background back in the day whenever I produced the 6 o'clock news for my local television station, that sort of thing. So I love telling other people's stories. So I think that's powerful. The more different stories that we have out there, it becomes a sort of patchwork of just everybody's stories and humanity sort of coming together with that. So I think that speaks to an audience as well. So I love that. But on a really personal level, I guess a couple things I could think of that I could relate to about connecting. I had a mom, just familiar with her, but through school and activities our kids did. And she asked me one day, Aunt, do you ever let your kids eat fast food? And I was just shocked that she even asked that. It's like, because everybody's busy, right? And at some point, on some day, you're going to run through the drive-thru somewhere because you don't have a choice, right? Even though we try to pack our lunch, and I've done blog posts on that, how you can pack snacks. And, you know, I've interviewed experts that have PhDs that talk about all the reasons why you should pick the nutritious snacks and take those along and not go through the fast drive-thru. And that's great. But I had to, she was actually shocked when I said, yes, we really do occasionally eat fast food. If there was one book that I could put in the hand of every mom in my playgroup, it would be Robin O'Brien's Unhealthy Truth. If you haven't read that, because I think she's inspired a lot of us to just continue that message of, you know, she talks about the 80-20 rule, which keeps your sanity. I mean, and I always feel for parents with, say, a child that has a peanut allergy, because that is life-threatening. I mean, they really don't have that 20% gap, right, of safety. But for many of us, 20% of the time, we can let go, right? You know, if dad picks something that we wouldn't, or if they are at a birthday party and they just really want to have that other cupcake or whatever. So, I think, again, it's about those places where we can connect and know when to kind of set the tone for things and when to let go of that. So, but just one other thing. Can I have one more minute?
Oh, yeah. No,
she's our timekeeper. So she's okay, just want to make sure. But just on, and I think you alluded to this, I was at a PTO meeting, and I'm not the greatest committee person because I tend to speak up about things that people don't want to, like, they just want to go, they just like, we're going to do this. And I'm like, wait a minute, why? Let's do it different. And they don't always want to hear that. So our local school has this tradition of a walkathon, which is a great thing. And it raises money for, I think they spend the money toward books for the school. So it's all positive. But the treat they give at the walkathon is the least expensive, donated by the parents, popsicles with, I'm not even going to tell you what the ingredients are because everybody here already has an idea, right? So, you've got moms like me just thinking, what is this? Why are we, what message are we giving our kids? And so I spoke up a while back it wasn't this year, but another year before I just given up on the PTO. No, really, they let me come back occasionally. But they do. I'm really not that hard to get along with. But I did speak up about, and I tried to explain a little bit. And the principal, and it was intimidating because it wasn't just the moms. The principal sits in on these meetings. So I'm a little intimidated. But I did speak up, and we talked about, the possibility of maybe finding an alternative. And was there another brand? Was there another possibility of something that was similar enough? And it looked like maybe that was going to happen. And after the meeting, and I felt like I was the only one that was worried about this. And I just felt like such a strange person that didn't belong there with the other moms. And another mom comes up just real quietly to me afterward and says, I'm so glad you said something. I've been so worried about that. And then she goes into this litany of all her concerns about her child's allergies and sensitivities. And it's even more serious than what mine were for my own children. And it was, like you alluded to, you just really don't know what other parents are concerned about. And if you don't start talking to them, talking to other moms in particular, saying, wait a minute, can we do better than this? You may be assuming that nobody else wants to change and make things better. And maybe there are a lot of other moms that have those same concerns. So again, I just find that there are places like that that can be really small where you can find ways to relate. And that was more of a personal story than a blog story, but I don't want to run out of time and get in trouble with Jenny. So.
I'm really not that. Anyway, a little bit maybe. I teach other classes and I'm always like, okay, anyway, but I don't know, I think, listen to your body is my bullet point there, because people come up to me a lot after class and are like, so how do you eat? Like, do you not eat any sugar? Or like, do you eat a lot of sugar? And I just tell them, I don't like to tell them how I eat because I don't think that's the same for everybody. Some people's bodies are okay with meat and some people's bodies are not. Some people's bodies are okay with dairy and some people's bodies are not. And for us to just impose our, restrictions like Chef was talking about, for us to say, well, this is how I eat. And because gluten-free did not do anything for him. It did not do anything for me. It did not do the magical, for me. Like I felt pretty crappy actually. And so some things, I don't know. I think that's what I tell people. It's just, we have to stop long enough. And this goes into a whole other lifestyle change, right? It's slowing down and being mindful of how you feel after you eat something. And usually that's just what my answer is to people when they ask me how I eat, is I kind of just turn around and I'm like, well, I just eat whatever makes my body feel good. And if it doesn't make my body feel good, I don't eat it. And I think that's a different approach, but it's not judgmental. See how that's kind of different when you kind of thinking about it, green for the mainstream. For a mainstream person, that's actually a better response. Not only is it more accurate, but it's more compassionate, it's non-judgmental than being like, well, I don't eat meat and neither should you. Like that's not gonna help anybody. So that was a big message I just love to share with everyone who eats really great. If you eat really great, it's kind of even harder to come with that message of, you do what is good for you and I'll do what is good for me and we will all be okay. And then I think my other one was utilizing shortcuts, because I might be the one, I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one who does that, because we do, I love these brands that are here at this conference because they're offering an alternative at the store, because I have a lot of friends who have, upwards of 3 children, and I'm sorry, but they're just not going to make their own lip balm. They're not going to. And they need to be able to just go to the store and buy lip balm that is safe. Just go get some Earth Mama Angel Baby or to get some Annie's instead of Goldfish. It's just really small changes. And I think a lot of us who've been doing this for a long time, that's kind of the problem with us going to the mainstream, because
we've gotten into this mindset, well, we don't want to use packaged foods at all. Like we got to make everything from scratch. And we just have to realize that that's not where, I mean, you guys probably know, because some of you guys are on the journey, right now, but that's not where you started. So even if you're already past that, just respecting it enough to offer those shortcuts to somebody else who's looking for that. And we have awesome knowledge here from being here and being able to offer them all these opportunities. Even if you don't use them yourself, you can share them with somebody who will help them take like one little step. Okay, I was really long-winded, so I'll let you address our how to connect, because Chef is really good at doing how to connect online. And then he'll kind of bring us a little bit more into the next slide. Because he's gonna, totally blow your mind.
Well, it's exactly like Jenny said before we get on how to connect. It's you have to find what resonates with you, and you have to find what works for you. And as a chef, they were talking about how 3 things you had to do, and I didn't put the third one down because I tweeted it: roast your own chicken, make a soup out of it, because I don't make my own salad dressings. I know how. I don't want to. Okay? Work smart, don't work harder. I would rather spend my time making something that's going to make a really large impact. There's some safe dressings out there you can use, or you can just use oil and vinegar, which I do sometimes. But work smart. Don't make your life extra hard, and don't beat yourself up about it if you don't. It's not about that. It's about baby steps. Like Leah said one time, you don't eat the whole elephant in one sitting. You eat it a bite at a time. Okay, so that's how you have to look at it. So connecting with people. It's really easy to connect with people like-minded if you put yourself in a mindset that you may not always find them where you're looking for them. Okay, now that sounds a little goofy, but say I go into a Blab, I'm doing Blabs now, and there's people talking about something that's completely unrelated to what I was looking for. But people are people. People are interested in what you have to say, and people will connect with you. I mean, it's just like she said about the meeting where the mom came up to you, right? You don't know who's listening to you speak when you go into a forum, when you go into a chat, when you tweet something, when you post something on Facebook. They're going, oh, somebody finally said something about that. So maybe they're talking about Donald Trump, and you step in to say, I think he should do something with his hair, but, and what do you do? Well, I cook, I'm a chef. I make healthier foods, or I try to most of the time. Really, where are you at? So that's how you connect with people, by not standing firm on and holding your banner high and waving it so people can see you coming a mile away. Be subtle, be inventive, be creative, be social. People are a lot more willing to listen to your message when you're social, when you're friendly. The turning point for me here last year too was I came here because I love Leah and I would do anything for her. The green movement, I don't give a crap. Okay, that was when I came. It was nice. I would say, Leah, stop talking to me. You're scaring me. I have to eat. Stop it. And she would smile and say, okay. She knew my time was coming. But I came here and I was afraid to talk to most of the people because I thought they were going to be burning a cross on my lawn. And it was, that's okay. Don't throw it out. Finish what you have, but maybe make some better choices because we care about you. We want you to be around for a while. We want you to be healthier. So that approach, that soft, kind approach, instead of beating me over the head with a stick, says, what do you mean you're not vegan? You're going to die. Okay. I'm going to go have a cheeseburger now.
Because you can't be stress eating now.
Yeah, because I eat when I get stressed. But, so connect with people with a kinder, gentler voice, and you'll be amazed how many people are going to ask you what you do. Remember, you're talking to people, and people like to tell you what they do. They like to talk about themselves. Be a good listener. Be a good listener when you go to connect on social media, because social media is exploding. Live streaming is exploding. And people that you're going to find and to connect with through this new social media type of live streaming and even the old-fashioned Twitter, okay, it's going to amaze you who you're going to connect with, who you're going to find, and whose lives you're going to be able to impact. Now, we're not preaching the green movement so much as we're trying to change how everything is. Like we're trying to enact laws. We're trying to help create a better environment for this earth. So the softer, kinder, gentler approach is what I advocate for social media.
Do you want to talk about how balancing the food and changing it up for organic at all?
Sure. Well, like I said about changing up organic before, you go into, and again, it's what your supermarket sells. Whole Foods is a journey for me. And it's mostly because of the highway I have to take to get there. And they're tearing it up and it's going to get worse. Okay. I shop in Publix, and when I first went down there, I was like, oh my God, what kind of store is this? But the people are so nice. And again, it was a kinder, gentler approach. So I love Publix now. I don't like everything they sell, but I like going in there. It's a good experience. Now, if I want organic produce, I have to drive to the one it's a little bit further away. And they have a great line because it's near Celebration, which is the big affluent area. Okay, not by my store. So, and to find more stuff, but I've also started shopping more at Costco, which is carrying some kick-ass organic and good sourced items. As a chef, I'm always looking for where my products are sourced from. Okay, seafood. I've been eating seafood, so I lost 45 pounds, so I've been eating a lot more seafood, and I've changed my eating habits. I eat a ton more vegetables now. I eat 6 to 10 portions of vegetable and fruit a day now, which is insane. I'm going through shock right now because I haven't had enough. I've been feeding myself all day long with fruit and vegetables. But I found that people are starting to listen to non-GMO. You see a lot more non-GMO products. You see a lot more organic products. You see a lot more healthy products. And it's amazing that the big box places like this are some of the ones that are listening first. Walmart, as evil as everyone thinks they are doing some steps towards that as well. So, you have to be conscious of who's doing this and maybe shop there a little bit more and let them know that you're buying these products. But non-GMO, organics, again, be aware of what's on the label, be aware of what's going. Source, I talk about sourcing. Sourcing seafood is very important. If it's sourced, if it comes from Thailand, from Vietnam, from Indonesia, I'm not going to buy it because I don't trust them. It may be perfectly fine, but I don't have enough information. It's just like Gary said about, do we know if GMOs are bad? We don't have enough information. Well, I don't know where they're shipping, where they're fishing, what they're doing from. A lot of times the products will even say from the United States waters, and then they send them to China to process. I'm like, oh, what the hell's up with that? Who decided to do that? Brainstorm. So look at not only what contains in the package and ingredients, but where it's sourced from, because you can be shooting yourself in the foot thinking you're doing good, buying this great salmon, and then you see where it's sourced from. It's not a good thing. So.
I think we'll talk a little bit about the expense, because that's always obviously an issue. You talked a little bit about Costco, which is a big deal. But we're going to just be more kind of like granular on food for the mainstream. And because I think these are some of the most common things that we get from people who are starting out. Is organic unrealistically more expensive? Why should I pay more for organic non-GMO? We've covered all this, some of the other panels, right? But just to let you know, these are the things, like if you are speaking to people who are starting out, this is just the stuff you're going to hear. So, and you have probably a lot of information from other panels that you can answer this with. But FYI, that's probably what we get. If you go back and you're really excited from this and you're like, that's what I'm doing. They're like, well, what about it being so expensive? Why should I pay extra? And what do I look for? Is it okay to buy healthy foods from big mainstream brands? And that was kind of like my standing on a whole thing. But I was really glad to see that Robin and Gary have kind of already covered that in another panel. But I'll talk. Ian is our expert on saving money as far as going cleanly eating and saving money. So I'm going to just pass it on to her a little bit.
Okay. Well, just to keep it real simple, and that's really the premise of my blog is just going back to the best of grandma's traditions and then improving on what we know better, because we do have some new information, but there are a lot of things that our grandmothers did that were just fine.
Other than the toilet.
Other than
the bleach, you
but
know.
as far as
yeah.
food, I mean, people used to grow their own food, and they didn't always spray it with chemicals,
Right.
and they survived. And so, right, I mean, you've heard, again, it's that kind of full circle with the food industry that, so just simply, growing your own food you do actually save money if you have any amount of knowledge at all about growing your own food, growing a garden, buying locally. And if I think in a way, if you're more open-minded about sourcing your real food, whole food, organic food. And again, I think it's really important for my audience to not be worried about this sort of elitist approach or this elitist misconception that is out there. I'm really excited because we finally got a Whole Foods in Knoxville, Tennessee. Yay, I'm really excited about that. And I'm excited because it's going to make the other healthy supermarkets in the area sort of compete with each other. So I can price some of the products that I already like at those 3 or 4 different places and not just have one place in town I can find it, because more competition is better for us, right? That's better for the consumer. It's better for our readers, for our audiences. So I think that's a very mainstream way to look at it. And in terms of what I'm thinking about when I think about clean couponing is, yes, I want to save money. But if I'm really particular about a product because I've done the research as a mom and I know I want only this certain type of product or I want to avoid certain ingredients, I still might want to price shop. I still might grab a coupon from that business online. I might link to that in a sponsored blog post, something like that, like we've done with who else here is in the Stonyfield Yo-Getters group, Stonyfield bloggers? Anybody else today? Because there are bloggers all over the country that do that. But again, they're really easy venues for us to be really approachable, both online and in person, with presenting and making it fun and say, look, here's some fun product for your kids. And you don't have to preach about it being organic. It's just fun. And then, wow, there's a coupon. So then there's clean couponing. So I think, again, it can be really simple. But one of the most basic things I ever learned that will save you money is when you cook, and I know a lot of you do it out here, and you do it much better than I do in elaborate detail, and God bless your hearts for doing it. But you cook ahead, right? You meal plan. Some of you do it down to the penny, and I think that's wonderful. And you just go right ahead and do that. But the simplest thing my mom ever told me when I was a newlywed and she wanted to encourage me to cook more, and I was actually working in the newsroom at that time, and so I wasn't cooking as much at home as I wanted to once I had children. And she said, man, just cook something like a lasagna or something and just make double and freeze half of it. I mean, it's common sense. Again, we don't need a research study to tell us that. We don't need an expert to tell us that. Just listen to your mom. I mean, sometimes it's really that simple. And just be kind-hearted, as my other wonderful panelists have said, in the way that you share that. Maybe there's another new mom or a new dad, hopefully they're cooking too, that can just take that in a loving way, can just understand that wherever they are, that's okay, and that there are really simple steps they can start with to save money. And one other thing you touched on a little bit, this question about, is organic overpriced? Is it out of reach for us, right? And the experts have gone into great detail on some other panels about that. So you don't want to hear about externalities again, and you don't want to hear about that. So that's all right. But I was most impressed by, I just thought it was really fun to get to meet the CEO of Annie's here at the conference. And he actually listened to me when I gave him feedback about how my kids love the gummy bunnies and they like the crackers, but my oldest daughter thought that she'd outgrown the crackers that were in the bunny shape and she liked the other shape of crackers. And he wasn't dismissive about that. He actually listened. And it wasn't just that he listened, but then his marketing staff said, oh, yeah. And he talks to people online all the time. And he listens to every mom in America that wants to tell him what their kids like and don't like. So I know there's some strong feelings at this conference, in this room, in different places. Like you said, there's light green and dark green, and no offense to anybody that has strong feelings one way or another about big business, small business, what have you. But at the end of the day, if good food is accessible to our children, to my children, to your children, to children in every community, and it can be in more stores, and a company actually cares enough to listen to the parents, I think that's a brand we should support. And I think that we need to be a little bit more open-minded sometimes, because that gives us more of those options and keeps us from preaching just this elitist message.
Oh, yeah. And do you want to take a question from Abigail, or do you want to go ahead and do it?
Or-
Well, there's a mic right there if you want to, Abigail, if you want.
It's not really a question, I was just to support you and say, don't put a baby down.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was just gonna quickly say, I'm so happy to meet people here, particularly people like Ann, because for me, exposure to couponing, the whole idea, were those annoying people in front of me in line that had 3 hearts full of ravioli. And God bless you if you eat it out of the can. I don't judge that. It's just that I'm standing in line waiting for you to get your 3 carts full of canned ravioli for a penny. Sweet that you did it, but how does that translate to my life? If I just want strawberries, if I just want cantaloupe, if I just want to get this allergy-safe food for my son. So I think when you find brands, or you find someone like Ann, or if you find someone that does it well, listen to them and be able to share their information with other people and say, guess what? You don't just have to use coupons for Tilex is my favorite word. Sorry, that was my grandmother's, that was her stuff. My house felt like it for however many years. Just find people that do it well, support them and share. Try to partner with them. Maybe ask her, can I, link to your blog, or can I link to this article and share it with my readers? And would you mind if I printed this out and handed this out at my next PTSO meeting, so that people become more informed? And when they see that you care so much about them, they're going to want to hear what you have to say.
And now we have left a whole bunch of time for questions, and we can go off on tangents if you don't have questions, but it would probably be great. Yeah, if you guys have, and also Dennis might have some people on the live stream that have some questions for us. But mostly, just about anything, but specifically like where you are on your own journey, where the people around you are on their journey, how this translates to maybe your social media presence. Yeah. Somebody have a question? We're going to go online. We totally get, okay, yay.
Okay, so we have been really focused on food in our family. We started with because of food allergies and sensitivities, and food has become very important to my whole family. Even my kids talk about, okay, for lunch we need to have a protein, we need to have a fruit, we need to have a vegetable. But my question as far as food goes is I really appreciated seeing organic foods become more affordable. The only thing that we have not transitioned to is meat. Because it's so
It's hard to get.
expensive to feed a family meat when you're buying grass-fed meat for like $9 a pound.
Totally.
So is there any ways that I don't, you don't know what I know, but are there any ways that I don't know about to get good grass-fed meat more affordable, or what should I be looking for when I go to the store and shop for meat? Meat is challenging.
Meat is very hard, and you just really have to look again. It's that key word, pastured.
Yeah.
Okay, even free range does not necessarily mean free range. So it's got to be pastured, and you have to look for that. And I had a hard time sourcing it at first, and I actually went online and I Googled it. Thank God for Google. Where to buy it, and I found some local farms. Now, most of it's always frozen when I find it, and it is very expensive. So at that point, you want to start thinking about how you're feeding your family. First of all, as Americans, we eat so much protein. It's unreal. We eat way too much protein. So the first thing you do when you buy that very expensive meat is you cut down the portions, because we don't need that much protein. So now you're going to start benefiting from it for other reasons other than the fact that you're giving them good meat, you're giving them less meat that their body really doesn't need, because it turns extra protein. If you're not super active, all the extra protein turns to fat. It's not a good thing unless you're a marathon runner, or you're working out, or you're a football player or something, and you're really going to burn through calories. So think about that. So now start giving them the extra vegetables in place of that. And make the vegetables fun. One of the things I did that, and even me, I have a hard time with vegetables sometimes. I bought a spiralizer, and it's like I'm a kid again when I'm eating some of the vegetables. It's like, oh, this is so much fun. So find ways to get them to eat and get them involved with it. But again, cutting down meat not only does a lot more for you physically, but it helps the environment because of all the, meat causes so much issues with our carbon, what we're doing to the ozone and all that other stuff. So, but look for places in your area and you'll find them, because I was surprised. You'll find little pockets. Like I found a place where I can go pick my own eggs. I can go out in the hen house and get my eggs, and they have all the meats in there frozen. They are expensive. So again, pick what you can use. Don't feel bad about it if you have to use something else to supplement your diet, but use what you can and start. Even if you change to half, you're better off than you were before.
Yeah, do you have a Costco?
Yes.
Because I love Costco.
Yes.
Woohoo! See, so I love Costco.
Yes.
And I don't do a lot of red meat because I just cannot even, it's hard for me. Not socially, but physically. But they have great, you can buy like organic whole chickens.
Yes.
And even like the what do you call it? Skinless, boneless breasts.
Yes.
In a 3-pack,
Thighs.
organic. Yeah, so I do that a lot.
So then when it says organic, does it mean that it's pasture?
Well, with chickens, I don't really know what's happening
No.
with chickens.
See, but
Like I have chickens, they're not very smart. Like I don't know. Sometimes I want them to not be abused, so I'm pretty sure they're not being abused at Costco. But they are being fed vegetarian diet and whatever else you have to do with the
there's something
USDA.
else at Costco, because I did change to Costco as well because of that, because there was something else on the packaging, and I can't remember if it did say pastured, but it alluded to more than just, because vegetarian, everybody's feed, even
Right.
Purdue's feed them vegetarian feed now. It's like the new buzzword, and they're jumping on these things to try and fool us into thinking something different.
And chickens are not vegetarian. They're not supposed to eat.
they're not supposed to
Right. Well, I just what I'm looking out for is often in a factory farm situation, they're feeding them cut up other animals.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to avoid. I don't want the chicken that I'm eating to have eaten another chicken, because that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So whatever it is in Costco, you can get Costco chicken.
Yeah.
Like it, like I said, light green, dark green. I don't have judgment for anybody because that's what's in my budget right now. And I'm just learning to cook meat because I was vegetarian for 13 years and I don't really, I'm trying to figure out how to cook meat, and I burned a lot of things.
And pork, if you can find wild boar. And wild boar is becoming a huge problem in the country. So you're gonna start seeing more of it out. So if you can source, yeah, well,
Oh,
hey,
got it.
I have tons of comments about that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Here.
But I will say in some areas, the butchers will no longer process wild boar
Mhm.
because of a disease that is rampant in some of the wild populations. You need to check with
Yeah.
your local areas. In Oklahoma, the butchers are not legally allowed, they will get shut down if they process wild boar because of a disease that wild hogs carry, which is part of the problem why there's such a brutal problem. I would recommend buying bulk if you have access to a deep freeze. And I will say, like, my father-in-law, we raise organic pastured grass-fed from birth to end cattle, but we do not sell them commercially. However, if somebody posted on like a local Facebook group, yard sales, Swap and Shop, and said, hey, I'm looking to buy half a cow, who has one? We would gladly sell them half a cow and let them pay our processing fee in order for us to get that other half and at least recoup some of the feed costs and the butchering fees. And so sometimes it may not be like a commercial thing, but you can kind of work directly with the person who's raising that animal, and they may have like 1 or 2 extra from their herd that year or their flock or whatever. And the other thing that I would say is like you mentioned, buying the whole chickens. So if you can do a cooperative with somebody where maybe you're buying 25 of their meat chickens, and then when it comes time for butchering, they're raising it on their land, but you come over and you help with the butchering the entire thing, and then you get a third of them. So you're kind of working out some work in kind where you're treating your initial investment, that's going to save them money, they're getting those chickens for free. But then also you're actually working alongside of them. We've had people do that on our ranch as well, and we're glad for the extra hands. And so we're happy to give some of our weapons in exchange for the work. So those are 2 tips that came to me immediately just based on our personal experience.
Great. Oh, would you tell everybody the name of your blog, please, so they can get more information?
I'm Angela England, and my blog is Untrained Housewife, where we talk about recapturing the lost arts of intentional and self-sufficient living. I'm also the co-founder of Homestead Bloggers Network, which is a cooperative support group for bloggers who are specifically in the self-sufficiency niche.
Wonderful. Thank you. And if anybody else has questions as we get toward the end, be sure and tell what blog you're with, because we want to support each other. So,
Go ahead. No, Janae,
I was just telling Angela that I love her.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking about meat.
go ahead. No, I
So
have
again, and not to be too redundant, but I mean, if you have a food co-op in your area, they're more likely to already be sourcing local or regional meats as well as other foods. If you have a farmer's market, there might be somebody also already doing that really conveniently. You might have to, with meat or eggs, you're more likely to need to pre-order that because, I mean, again, there's actually so much demand for it. If you come late to the farmer's market, you may have missed it. Everybody else would have already gotten their dozen eggs and their meat, what have you, for the week. So you do want to check on that. And I would I think that's great information to get something directly from the farmer if you can. And you might have to check from state to state on if there are any specific rules or regulations regarding that, because there are some, that really ultimately should have to do with food safety. And so that's important. Yes.
Right.
So, but that's where, and anything else regarding that would be for a different session. So yeah, but just keeping it simple, that there are ways to save money. And I loved what Dennis said about just less meat, because, I grew up on a farm, and I mean, you would eat, it was like, you didn't have a big pork chop on your plate, that wasn't right. I mean, it was like, it was meat, and then, there might be a vegetable, because it was just a mindset, right? And so I think that also helps make it fun for kids when you are maybe going for really quality over quantity, and trying to just be more innovative with recipes, so that, like you said, you're getting a better balance of the food, and so it can work out that way for your budget. And did you have a question?
Yes. Hi, I'm Hesavia from EcoConsciousMinimalist.com, and I was curious about the whole backyard farming and everything like that, like farming, but mainly like produce and vegetables. And I've gone down the Google rabbit hole of trying to source like the dirt, and I was running into issues with that. Like I found a place where I could buy like some regular vegetables, but like where the hell can I get good dirt? Actually.
Right.
So I don't know if anybody. Well, I'm trying to get my husband on board with that. But like if I could go out and buy the soil and any brands,
Okay.
like that.
Okay. Well, just
to get my husband to get on the board with composting.
Right. It takes a long time too.
Yeah, well, just again, I'll give you the short answer to that, and the long answer would probably be in a different session, or you're welcome to check my website, which is, I did for a long time a sort of Saturdays in the Garden theme with Flower Sack Mama. So, and my premise was not that I'm a perfect gardener, because you can find all the perfect gardeners out there, and that's another blog conference. But my premise is really that if I can do this, then you can do it. If my family can do it and we're busy, then you can too. And so get back specifically to your dirt question. The dirt does matter. And specifically, if you've looked into organics and you respect the amazing things that the organic farmers are trying to do for you, if they're trying to bring you organically raised food, is it really does matter. Every single thing that goes in that soil matters from beginning to end. And so just to keep it simple and you're talking about a home scale, right? Yeah. Just for your home. The simplest thing I would suggest, just to get started and not feel overwhelmed about it, is build a raised bed. And you could go online, you can find a kit. I get what my husband actually built ours for us. And it was pretty simple. If you know somebody that likes to build things, make sure that you're not building with chemically treated wood.
You can use cedar. Cedar is bug repellent, but then also not chemically treated.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, just you don't. I mean, for years people wanted to build gardening things with old railroad ties that are coated with creosote, and it's a mindset. People don't realize that. So just keep it simple. Build something without chemically treated wood. I think you can even get some kits. You might want to check with a home and garden center. Even some of the big box stores are getting into that.
They go online this time of year. I mean, they go on sale this time of year usually at like Home Depot. It's just the corners, they sell the 4 corners, and then you just go and get the wood that you put in the corners. But they sell them a lot this time of year because no one is gardening this time of year, and they're trying to get rid of them.
Okay, good tip. Okay, so back to the soil is, again, just keep it simple. You can have your soil tested. Usually wherever you are, you can go to your local kind of county by county. There would still be yes, ma'am. Yes, that's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, your county extension agent. And for free or very little cost, you can actually have your soil tested, so that you do want to double check that you don't have, heavy metals, and what you're really looking for is the right balance of minerals and so on in there. But with the raised bed, you could keep it really simple, and you could create your own compost, or you could buy, find a garden center that will sell just soil, and just ask them where it came from. I mean, it's really, you could do something like a really simple compost that's already been made, and just ask some questions. And I know I'm kind of giving you more questions to ask, but keep this, right. Just ask where it came from. I mean, one of the questions that I asked, and again, I didn't do a scientific study on this, so if anybody did a scientific study, just feel free to email me later and you can clarify this one. But I remember I was picking compost one time, and there was compost from cotton. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. That sounds like a good deal, right? You get a good deal on compost made from the cotton fields, right? And then I started learning more about and listening to what these scientists were telling us about, and what the organic farmers are learning about what happens with cotton, what's going on, what's being put on those fields, right? It's one of the most contaminated areas where those pesticides are really doing damage to our ecosystem and ultimately to our health. And so I thought, wow, maybe that's not the smartest choice. I'm not going to pick compost made from, that's basically just this leftover from the cotton fields. So I tended to choose a mushroom compost because that was the best choice that I could make in my area. Now, I'm not saying, I haven't done a study on it, I'm not saying that's perfect for you, but I would just keep it really simple and try to understand where that comes from. The other thing is, if you're building your soils, you're going to be really cautious about manures. So not to go too deeply into anything that's going to just repulse anybody.
Well, no, because I was watching, I watched like the non-GMO OMG documentary on Netflix, and then there was like a binge, and then I ended up watching like Cowspiracy later. So I'm thinking about like the dirt or whatever that they were using. They didn't use any animals, like it wasn't, they didn't have any manure or anything like that. They're like up in like Detroit, and I live in San Francisco.
I don't have cable, so I'm not following you completely on the show.
The GMO OMG, they were here last year at Shiftcon.
Okay, I got it. You sort of like, I was like, what are we talking about? Okay, about the well, that I could see somebody being cautious about that, and that you would get into what the regular. And there might be a difference between what you're doing with your backyard gardening and what somebody, if they have to follow specific rules if they're trying to get that USDA organic certification, right? So you could go, that's a whole 7 guidelines. But for yourself, if you do want to use something like manure, if you use something like chicken or rabbit manure and age that just a little while, then that's going to tend to be safer than manure from other animals. You really want to be cautious, and you probably don't want to use manure from other animals like cattle or hogs or what have you. It just gets more complicated. If that manure is used, it actually has to be aged at least, I think it's something like 6 months. Again, don't quote me on that. I'm not giving specific instructions on that. But the point is, you do have to be careful, because there are a lot of different reasons that the scientists could tell you that you need to be cautious about that. So just keep it simple, but just have some sense of where the stuff is coming from whenever you're building what you're putting in your raised bed. And let's move on. I think we don't have much more time, but thank you for that question.
Did you have a question, or you just answered someone?
What is it?
Oh, I'll just add that because what she's doing is awesome, what Anne's doing is awesome. I'm a little below that awesome level when it comes to gardening. Like, yeah, well, I mean gardening, because I've killed a number of things, and you can find that information on my blog. Like every year, I'm like, this is the year it's gonna work, and then I'm like, and here are all the dead plants. So just to say that, if you could be awesome or not awesome, and that's still awesome, because you don't, it's great for us to have the discussion about the soil, and I think that's right. But then if you have a friend who bought some soil from Home Depot and dumped it in a pot and is growing a tomato plant on their balcony at an apartment, just throwing it out there that we need to love that. Like, we need to just be good for you. Like, we love you, not like, do you know what's in that soil? We're all gonna die. Throw it away right now. I'm gonna set it on fire just in case. Like, I mean, that's not where we're gonna go. You are at that level, but she's not. So we just are like, okay, great.
Not to mention the plastic pot they put it in.
Right. So, I mean, and I may have some plastic pots, but that's not edible food that's in there, so I don't think that matters. So there's a lot of different levels, and just, you're at an awesome level, and I'm not so much there, but we are all on the same path, and that's kind of like the message that I have for this panel the most, is even when we get super passionate, that we still love the people that are at a different spot,
Mm-hmm. And remember that together our voice makes us so much stronger. So even if you're light green, I don't think I'm dark green yet. I'm nowhere near that. Or I may never become dark green. It's okay. But I'm doing more for me than I ever did before. I'm feeling better. I'm helping to spread the message. So together, all of our shades of green are fine. And we add this voice to our message that helps change the world. And that's really what we have to look at it. So help your friends, if they can do better, that's great. If they can't and they never improve over just buying organic produce, or even, a couple kinds of, if they stop buying non-organic berries and grapes and things that are really harmful, and they go from there, that's fine. Be happy for them because they're making some changes in their lives. And sooner or later, they're going to start asking you other questions. Like when you have them over your house, like, I'm like an advocate for dryer bowls now. I'm loving them. And I tell them, do you have dryer bowls? I've got dryer bowls. And they look at me and they go, TMI, Chef Dennis. So, but then I tell them, it makes my clothes nice and fluffy and soft. And they look at me strange again. But, it's really, my wife just said the other day, I miss the sense of dryer sheets. I says, well, forget it. Stuck with whatever I bring home. And but be kind to your people as they transition, because sooner or later, they're going to keep coming to you for more information.
Yeah. Have any other questions or any other shout outs, or? Because we're totally letting you guys out early. A little bit. We have about some minutes, I think, right? Yeah. 5 minutes.
Oh, only 5. I had the wrong stop time. Sweet. All right. But yeah, I don't know. Anybody have any other troubleshooting? Oh, yay. Come. We have a mic over there. Come sit at the mic.
It's a short question.
Yay. I feel like someone else should hold the mic, though.
I'm like you, so all this organic stuff.
Yay. Awesome.
I buy this a little bit and then not this and this and not that.
Yeah.
Is there anything like this? Everything have to be organic, like your peppers and, and I know there's certain foods that you're like, oh, you don't have to buy that organic. It's, you can buy that regularly.
There's the Clean 15. You want to look and
We
just
have in our swag bag also, there's a little card with the Clean 15
Yes, there
and the
is.
Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, so just look at the Clean 15. There's certain things you don't have to worry. I mean, if you can find them priced right, because sometimes you can, then buy them organic. But there are things you don't need to. There's certain items you need to key in on. And if you key in on those Dirty Dozen and just that Dirty Dozen, and make those changes, baby steps. Start with that. And again, if you can't buy them all, don't buy them all, but buy as many as you can.
Okay.
Can I add one thing to that? I agree with what Dennis said, but listen, I have some weeks that at the grocery store I'm at, because I'm busy and I only have time to go to one grocery store, unlike my friend that can shop 10 grocery stores and she knows the lowest price on blueberries that week. If I can get the organic blueberries that week for a reasonable price, that's what I get my kids. But if it's the week that they have just jacked the price up and it's unreasonable and they really want blueberries, your kids are not going to die because you got conventional blueberries one week. So don't stress about that. The stress about that is actually worse than if you just bought conventional.
Oh, she said the button turned the mic.
Did I turn the mic
Yeah,
on?
you have
On again. I thought I heard you.
It's good.
Sorry, was it yelling?
No, she said the mic went off, but I didn't hear it.
Oh.
It's back
I'm sorry. Go on.
That I found that some of my favorite garden people in here may or may not agree with is that I also find organic frozen fruit.
Yeah.
That works
that's
for me.
Yeah.
Because I have one kid, a very busy, traveling all the time husband, and I'm the laziest homekeeper ever. Like, you won't find me digging in the backyard. I don't fold my own clothes, just forget it. So I'm not going to stay in the kitchen all day on Sunday making, you film it. So, if I can find the simplest solutions that make my life easier, I'm not going to eat the whole quart of fruit right now, but if it's frozen, that can last me several weeks, maybe even several months. So just look for the simplest way to do it that makes it easier for your family.
Question?
Any other questions?
I was just gonna say buy in season.
Yes.
But that's
Ooh.
easy
You're so smart.
Yeah, you can always tell strawberries go down. During the summer, the price of organic strawberries goes down, so it's great.
Buy them in large amounts.
Yeah,
Make
we
them
did.
give you a discount because you're buying in bulk, and then freeze them. So in the winter, you're eating 10-cent strawberries instead of $2 strawberries.
Yeah, I did that. We went into a strawberry farm and picked strawberries over the summer, and I think it was June or something, and I cut them all up and they're still in the freezer, and I'm still throwing them in smoothies, you know, because I was like, oh, I didn't think about what would happen if I had 16 pounds of strawberries. Like I was like, look, we're gonna pick some strawberries and we're gonna get some great. And I was like, whoa, that is a lot of strawberries. Like I can't eat that many strawberries in a week. So I froze all of them.
Is you saved yourself a ton of money over the next.
Yeah, it was really cheap when I did the math of how many pounds. Yeah, it was cheaper, but I was just like, oh, smoothies are always a good solution to that. Love smoothies. Vitamix, yeah. I love a Vitamix. Yeah, we're probably good. Like, unless you guys have anything else, we are all done. But there's our thanks for coming, guys, and